lives within everything you do. Nothing will make any difference because all you'll discover are more problems, more problems, more problems, more problems. I'm here to say that your company, the business you started, is the most significant opportunity of your life. Provided you see it. Provided you see it the way it is. So fast forward. Invented E-Myth worldwide. Wrote my first book, The E-Myth, Why Most Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It. It was published in 1986, started the company in 1977. The book was an accident. A guy was sitting listening to a seminar I was doing called Key Frustrations in a Small and Growing Business and What to Do About Them. He came up to me afterward and he said, "Would you like to write a book?" And I said, "Sure, about what?" He said, "The seminar." I said, "Yeah, I'd love to do that." He said, "Well, let me go back to the publisher and see if we can do the deal." Came back, he said, "We did the deal." They gave me an advance on this little book. I'd never written a book. And I wrote it in 90 days. It was published 6 months later. And today it's one of the top 5 most successful books on business in the world. How many of you read the E-Myth? Okay. Please, how many of you have not read the E-Myth? Oh, tragedy. I go around the world and I speak and people come up to me constantly saying, "Michael, I just got to say this to you, just got to say this." And they all say the same thing. They look at me square in my face and they said, "Michael, you have changed my life." And I said, "And how did I do that?" "I read your book." Now hear me, it's not me. Do you understand? It just happened. I read your book. And always, this is what they say. Now, this is going to sound absolutely absurd, but they say, I have 2 favorite books, almost always. One is the Bible, and the second is your book. Now, they say that. You'll forgive me for... They say that. Now, why in the world do they feel that way? Because literally, by changing the way they think, everything they did became different. And the way I taught them to think was this. Just like my saxophone teacher told me, just like my carpenter told me, just like my sales manager told me. They didn't say it exactly like this, but this is what I learned. Go to work on your business, not in your business. Go to work on your life, not in your life. Transcend it, and then you can see it. If you can't transcend it, you will always be it. And if you are it, you're lost. If you are your company, you're lost. If you are your job, you're lost. If you are your career, you're lost. Extraordinary master taught me that lesson. The man's name was Gurdjieff. Anybody heard of Gurdjieff? Please raise your hands if you've heard of Gurdjieff. It's amazing so few people have heard of Gurdjieff. Anybody here heard of The Work? Raise your hands if you've heard of The Work. I'm not accustomed to doing this. I don't usually get intimate with the audience. You understand? I don't usually ask questions, but I'm asking a question. How many of you heard of The Work? Please raise your hands. Oh my God. Go to work on it, not in it. Let me tell you a little story. When I was among those 12 clients in the very, very beginning, and it's beginning to get so frustrated because I'd walk into these little businesses and they're in total chaos. There's no order. I went from one business to another business and stopped on the way at McDonald's. Now, it tells you something about me. I had an epiphany, a life-transforming epiphany in that moment that I walked into McDonald's. I suddenly saw what was missing in every one of those businesses. I saw the product of Ray Kroc's imagination. Ray Kroc was the founder of McDonald's, but he didn't found it, he found it. Ray Kroc was a peddler of malted milk machines, multi-mixer malted milk machines, and he went to the McDonald brothers to sell them a multi-mixer malted milk machine. And he walked into McDonald's in San Bernardino, and his mind was blown. He couldn't believe his eyes. He was so taken by what he saw that he set about convincing the McDonald brothers to give him the franchise rights to McDonald's. And they did. And they gave him the franchise rights to McDonald's because they knew they weren't worth anything. Because I'd already tried to franchise McDonald's and failed. Please write this down. Experience is the worst teacher in the world. It tells you what you think you know, but it doesn't tell you what you don't know. And what the McDonald brothers didn't know, Ray Kroc did. And he had none of their experience. He saw it instantly. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. They gave him the franchise rights. He walked back to Des Plaines, Illinois, borrowed the money to start his first store. Now, whatever you think about McDonald's, I think you'd have to agree it's a relatively successful company. Ray Kroc went back, borrowed the money to start his first store, what he called his franchise prototype. But Ray Kroc didn't do what every single small business owner right here in this field did when you started your business. Ray Kroc didn't work in McDonald's. He didn't go to work in McDonald's. He didn't make a French fry, didn't make a malted, didn't make anything, whatever. Didn't do the work in the business. He hired people to do the work in the business because that wasn't his job. Ray Kroc went to work on the franchise prototype of McDonald's to perfect the system. The core operating system of that exquisite company that he set out in his mind and his imagination to do something nobody had ever set out to do before. Ray Kroc said, I'm going to create the most successful small business in the world. And by saying I'm going to create the most successful small business in the world, what Ray Kroc was saying, the little sucker is going to work perfectly, absolutely perfectly every single time. Does your business work perfectly every single time? No. But it could. If you did what Ray Kroc did, if you saw what Ray Kroc saw, if you imagined what Ray Kroc imagined. He built the perfect little franchise prototype. And then he got ready to franchise it. The franchisee would walk in the door and they'd want to see it and he'd say, not yet, let me tell you a story. Please write that down. Let me tell you a story. What's your story? Let me tell you a story. What's your story? The job of the entrepreneur is to tell a story. What story? The story of the vision, the story of the dream, the story of the mission, the story of the purpose, the story that differentiates my company from every other company in the world. The story that creates a brand. The story that's the heart of the soul of the spirit of this company. Just like the founder of Starbucks did. Just like